The Busy Bee Ornament is all the buzz. Each bee uses just a tiny amount of two contrasting colors and white, and they simply fly off the machine when you follow the step by step instructions. Even the yarn tails are strategically placed so you can use them to seam and embroider the features. The companion pattern includes variations for the honeybee, the bumblebee, and even a baby bee. Find the link in the description below. But be careful, you may just have a swarm on your hands. Let's begin. We have set our carriage to 5.1, which is the main tension, knit in both directions. I'm going to put that aside. My row counter is at 0, and we're going to pull out 21 needles. And then I'm going to retract every other needle because I'm doing a special cast on that will be able to be pulled together and gathered when ready. So I'm going to just, with a relatively small yarn tail, I'm going to, in yellow, knit across one row. Hang my cast on comb, and a little weight. Bring the needles that I had retracted, so I have a full 21 needles back in work, and knit back. That's row 2. Now I'm just going to knit 10 more rows. Okay. I'm going to unthread my yellow, but I'm going to leave it attached. Thread up with my brown. Now here is something that I want you to pay attention to. There we go. I'm going to leave myself about a 12-inch yarn tail. I'll need that for finishing later. Now I'm going to just knit 4 more rows. I'm going to unthread my brown, switch back to yellow, and knit 4 more rows. I'm done with the yellow, so I'm just going to cut my yarn, leaving just a regular yarn tail. And before I move on, I'm going to pull out the few needles, and I'm just going to go up and down, just to weave it in. That will just become part of the stuffing, this yarn end and this end. Thread up with brown, and I'm going to knit 2 rows. Now I begin the shaping. I'm going to bring out, I'm always going to be counting from the left. You could count from the right if you wanted to, but either way will work. But I'm going to count from the left, and I'm going to pull out every 4th needle. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Okay, I'm going to take my tool, and I'm going to transfer these 1 needle to the left. Now I'm going to even out all my needles, but I'm going to bring them all out to the hold position. Now this one, I don't want the stitch to go behind the latch, so I won't bring that one out at first. I'm going to bring these all out and push this knitting back behind the latches. The reason I don't want this one to get pulled out is so that that stitch does not fall off. So now I'm going to make sure my latches are all open, and this is just an easy way to transfer. You can also transfer them by using your transfer tool, but I find this is faster, especially if I have to do a bunch of transfers. So I'm just going to pull the needles that I want to transfer, or the stitches that I want to transfer off, open the latches by pushing that back on the garter bar and sliding down, because all I'm doing is closing the gap between the stitches. So I'm pushed 3 off. Now I'm going to push the next 3 off. Move over 1 more, push the next 3 off. Move over a little bit further, push the next 3 off. Move over the last one and push those off. So I have 5 empty needles on this side. Those 5 go out of work. I'm going to push this all back, and I'm going to knit 1 row. Now I'm going to bring out every third needle. I'm going to do the exact same thing. First I'm going to transfer them one needle to the left. Then transfer the stitches to close the gaps. Okay, we have 5 more empty needles over here. Those go out of work. The knitting gets pushed back and we knit one more row. This time we're going to bring every other needle out to hold position to get the stitches behind the latches, and we're going to transfer these over. Now this is where it gets a little tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, so you got to be careful when you do this. Transfer the stitches to close the gaps. Now we have 5 empty needles. Pull them out of work, push the knitting back, and we're going to knit one more row. On this row we have 6 stitches remaining. So now we're going to pull out every other needle again, and we're going to do the last transfer just like we did before, with one needle to the left for each of these. Now we want to bring them together. We want to close the gaps. So this is an easy transfer, the 2 end stitches. Now we have 3 stitches in work. We're going to knit 5 rows. That's it. Now we're going to cut our yarn and leave ourselves about a 20-inch yarn tail. I'll need every inch of it later. My trusty darning needle. Bring these stitches out. That puts the stitches behind the latch, and just pop them off. Just going to stitch through that end just to give it a slight security while I remove my weights. So that's our little bee as it came off the machine. This is his head, our cast on row, and here's our little stinger. I'm going to bring 3 needles out to hold, and we're going to make the wing. So at this point I'm just going to simply E-wrap those 3 needles. I'm at main tension and knit in both directions. I'm going to knit 1 row. At this point we are going to take our transfer tool and transfer the leftmost needle 2 needles to the left, so that we have 1 needle in work, 2 needles out of work, and 2 needles in work. And then this is where a handy little weight helps, because you need to have something pulling down on this. Now we're going to neatly knit back. That's our second row. Now we're just going to knit 20 more rows. All right, we're there. So now we're going to transfer that one that we transferred back out over to the center, so that we have 3 needles in work. We're going to knit 1 row. Now we're going to transfer it back out 2 needles. So that marks our center. Now if you want, you can mark that row below, the one that we transferred it in. It should have a little indent in it, but it's easier to find this way. So now we're going to knit 21 rows. So I'm going to cut my yarn, and all I'm going to do is bring these out to the hold position. That puts the stitch behind the latch, and then just pop these off with my darning needle onto the yarn tail that was left. And then I'm going to stitch through 1 more time just to secure it a little bit. Doesn't totally secure it. And take my weights off. This edge here has just 1 stitch on it, because you can see there's like a little space, and then there's 2 over here. What we want to do is we want to gather the wing along the edge with just the single stitch. So do you see the knots, and then it's sort of like the flat part, and then the knot and the flat part along the edge. What we're going to do is we're just going to take our darning needle with that end still and put it through each of the knots. So there's 22 rows along this edge, so that's 11 knots. So we're just going to pick them up and run our thread through it. And now we can just gather this. Is that not nice? See how that wing formed? Then I'm going to come back to this side and I'm going to go around this center where that was gathered, and it also helps secure the yarn tail. And there's one little wing made. We can drop this end off. Don't cut the yarn yet. We'll need it later. Then we're going to go back to the beginning yarn tail, thread up our darning needle, find the edge that has the single stitch. This one has the 2, and this one has the single stitch. This time I'm holding it so that the knit side is facing me, but it's the same principle. You're going to find those knots along the edge. They're the ones that stick out and they're nice and tight. Okay, now we're getting close to the marker. The nice to have that marker there, isn't it? And we have one more knot along that edge. Now we pull it up tight and secure the center of the second wing. Okay, once you have it nice and tight, do you see how the wings are in place now? So I can just stitch over here and secure this to this side of this wing because I want a little bit of it joined together. Now our wings are ready to be sewn to the back of a little bee. We still have our needle attached to his little stinger. We're just going to whip stitch his little stinger to get to his body. Then when we get to here, we're just going to mattress stitch up until the top of this stripe right here. I'll meet you then. Okay, once I know that this stripe has matched perfectly, I can stop sewing. One thing I want to do is I want to make sure that the second brown strand, that it's on the outside. I'll need it later. This one I will also make sure is on the outside, but it's on the seam, so I'm not too worried about it. Now I'm going to return to the cast on edge. This cast on, though, is what I used on purpose, because if I pull the end, it gathers the top of the head perfectly. Now here's a little trick. Use a second darning needle for this one, because I still have to go back to that one in a minute. And all I'm going to do is stitch around the crown so that I can get this to be pulled up really nice and even and nice and tight. I like to go about 2 or 3 times around. That way I know it's really secure and it's not going to come undone. So I'm finishing that right now. And I'm going to stuff his little body now. And you want to stuff him firmly. So now we're just going to seam down his back with the mattress stitch and weave in this yellow end. I'll meet you then. The seam marks the center back. So I'm going to put a marker right there so I know where that seam is, because that helps me judge where to place his eyes and his other features. So here's the secret of these 2 strands being back here. The long end that I had the darning needle on, I'm going to stick it through his body and come out where one of the eyes is going to be. One's going to be here and one's going to be there. So I'm just coming through his body. Then I can use this as a judgment, and I'm going to put my thumb there because I'm going to use my thumbnail as the marker for his eye. And I'm going to stitch like almost on a triangle. And as I pull up, you'll see my thumbnail is shaping that curve, so he has sweet little bee eyes. I'm going to stitch under this, that snags it, and put this one here, and come over about 1.5 stitches. You can count your stitches, 3 parts of the stitch, 3 sides of the stitches. And by doing that, I don't have to do a heck of a lot of embroidery. I just can tack his eye into place. Now I'm coming over here and doing the same thing on this side. And let's see, about right there, and come out right here for the top of his eye, because I'm going to, once again, pull that up and hold my thumbnail there to shape the eye, and then stitch through. Now I'm going to come out somewhere right around between one side of his eye and the other side of the eye, or to the center, whichever you prefer. You want how big you want to do his smile. So there's his two little sweet little eyes, and we're going to make a little mouth for him. So I'm going to hold it down with my thumbnail again, stitch in at the same place, and this is the fun part, because this is what makes them all look a little bit different. And I can do the same thing for his mouth. Come up here and just pull it down so he has a sweet little bee smile, a little bee smile. Then when I finish with that, I'm going to come up where his antenna goes, right there. I want his antenna to be right there. So I'm going to insert my hook right where I came out, and I'm going to grab my yarn and chain 1. You can do this with a latch tool, but I find it's easier to do with a crochet hook. And I'm going to chain 8. 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. When I get to the end, I'm going to slip stitch in the second chain from the hook and draw the end through. Then I'm going to rethread my darning needle, and see how that slip stitch made a little knobby thing? We're going to accentuate it by stitching around the end until we get a really nice knob and use up the rest of our yarn. Then I usually go back and do a couple side stitches just to secure that end. It's getting pretty tight, so that's pretty tight is right. Okay, come on, let's get through it. There we go. Once I have that nice and tight, then I just trim it off. Now, if I'm giving this to little children to play with, I will put a dab of fray check along his antenna. But he only has one antenna right now. We have to do the second one. And that's why we saved this long end at the beginning. So we just stab it through the body, and we come out on this over here, right where we want to put his other antenna. Let's say right there. And it just draws it through. So this yarn is all still attached. Even if they undo the little knot, the piece of yarn is not going to go anywhere. And we have his second antenna. The wings can be added this way or this way, but they are stitched right down to the seam on the back, just above the top stripe. That's as easy as it can be. For little children, I do not add any legs, but by age 5, kids seem to like detail and may want a bee with legs. Since bees have 3 pairs, cut 3 pieces of yarn 24 inches long. With a crewel needle, pull each piece through the body, extending half on each side where the legs should be positioned. Use the stripes as guides to vertically place each pair. Now, with a crochet hook, work each leg just like the antenna. This time, however, chain only 6, slip stitch in the second chain from the hook, and pull the end through. Use the yarn tail to form the knob on the end and weave in the end. Trim off the end close to the knob. He's a happy little bee. And he's all done. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please take a moment to subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications of upcoming videos and events. Happy machine knitting!